2.5 times. That's what $10,000 of your salary is worth. After 25 years, if you send it through one door instead of the other, about 67 grand versus 27. But that bigger number isn't free money. It comes from a tax head start and decades in the market. More growth, but real risk. And it's locked away until you're about 60. So the honest question was never which pile is bigger. It's whether that head start and that growth are worth the risk and the wait. Today, super versus your mortgage. Both doors, just the maths. Quick one first. General information only, not financial or tax advice. I'm not licensed. It doesn't consider your personal situation, and super rules in particular have caps and thresholds where your own numbers decide everything. Check yours before acting on anything. Right, Sarah. Regulars know her. If you're new, one breath. 150 grand a year. A mortgage at 6.1%. Let's say she's 35, because for this decision, the runway to 60 is everything. Today, it's about her pay. $10,000 of this year's salary she doesn't strictly need. 2 doors for that next dollar. Into the mortgage, the flexible one, or into super, the padlocked one. So the whole video is really one question. Where does Sarah's next dollar do the most work? Here's the entire trick, and it's one sentence. Money that goes into super through the front gate, salary sacrifice, skips your income tax rate and pays a flat 15% instead. Sarah's next dollar is taxed at 39. So her 10 grand arrives as 8,500 inside super versus 6,100 in her hand. That's a 39% head start before either door has earned a cent. One honest checkpoint. There's a $32,500 annual cap on this financial year, and her employer's contributions count toward it. Sarah's got 14.5 grand of headroom, so she's fine. Door B is the humble one. The 6,100 she actually takes home goes into her mortgage offset, a savings account that rides against the loan, so whatever sits in it simply pays no interest. That's an automatic 6.1% saving, tax-free every single year. And because it's tax-free, it's better than it sounds. To match it with ordinary earnings at her bracket, she'd need about 10% before tax. Certain, and the money's there. Next week, next year, whenever life asks for it. That last part is about to matter a lot. The head start is only half the wrapper's magic, because inside super, the returns are taxed differently too. Put the same ASX index fund in both doors and watch. Outside, Sarah's dividends are taxed at her 39%. Inside super. Earnings pay 15. And here's the beautiful quirk. Those franked dividends carry a 30% company tax credit into a 15% wrapper. The credit's bigger than the tax. Inside super, franking credits don't just soften the dividend tax. They can top the fund up. And when the shares are finally sold, capital gains inside super run at roughly 10% effective, versus about 19.5% outside at her bracket. Same shares. Gentler tax at every single step. Run the race. The mortgage door, 6-1, tax-free, 25 years, lands at about 26,800. Respectable and completely safe. The super door lands at about 66,800, roughly 2.5 times as much. But be honest about why, because it's not all tax. Part of it is the head start. 15% in instead of 39, and that's a genuine tax win, worth about 1/3 of the gap. The bigger part is simpler and riskier. The super money is in the market, earning around 8%. while the offset earns your loan rate, 6.1, certain, tax-free. Over 25 years, that return difference compounds hard. So the superdoor wins on tax and on returns. But that second win is really a risk premium. You only earn it by putting the money somewhere it can fall. Same salary in, very different risk. Hold that thought. It's the whole decision. Third video running, spin the bracket. At 32%, the superdoor finishes at about 2.2 times the mortgage door. Sarah's 39, 2.5. 47%, nearly 2.9 times, because the Head Start scales with the tax you're not paying. Sensing a theme across these videos? One honest flag at the very top. Earn past 250, including the contributions, and Division 293 doubles the entry toll to 30%. Even then, the door lands at about 2.4 times, thinner, but still not close. Now the honest dial, because Sarah's 35, and you might not be. The lock ends around 60 for everyone, so the older you start, the shorter the head start has to compound. Start at 40, about 2.2 times. 45, just under 2. Even at 50, 10 years locked, the superdoor still lands at 1.7 times the mortgage door. The maths never actually flips. That head start, plus decades of market growth, is hard to outrun. What changes is the price. How many years of your life that money spends behind glass. And that price isn't in the chart. So why doesn't everyone shovel every spare dollar in? Because for 25 years, that money answers to nobody, including Sarah. Redundancy at 41. A bigger deposit at 38. School fees, a medical year, a divorce, a business idea. The offset handles every one of those by Tuesday. The superdoor, with only narrow hardship exceptions, watches from behind the glass. The lock isn't a flaw in the deal. The lock is the deal. The tax office pays you that head start precisely because you've agreed not to touch it. Price the lock like it's real, because it is. Second honest risk, the rules. Everything today, the 15%, the 30 grand cap, the 250 threshold, is today's settings, and over a 25-year runway, governments will fiddle. They always have, in both directions. Perspective, though. The changes have historically been trims around the edges, not raids on the vault, and the head start is so large it survives a lot of trimming. Treat the tax rates as weather, not climate, variable year to year, while the underlying deal, concessional in, locked till 60, has held for decades, but know that you're trusting it to hold. One more honesty line, this time against the mortgage door. Our 26.8 assumed Sarah's loan sticks around for the full 25 years for the offset to work against. Real loans shrink and end. When the mortgage dies, the offset's 6.1% job dies with it. And that money has to find a new home at whatever returns exist then. The superdoor never has that problem. The mortgage door eventually does. Even the safe door has a horizon. Pulling it together, factors, not instructions. The maths favours the superdoor when the money is genuinely sparable until 60. When the bracket is high, because the head start scales. When there's cap headroom. And honestly, at almost any runway, even 50 was 1.7 times. It favours the mortgage door when there's any realistic chance the money's needed sooner. When the buffer's thin, an offset is an emergency fund. Super isn't. When certainty itself is the point. Or when the cap's already full. And notice, it was never all or nothing. Sarah can send 4 grand through the toll gate and keep 6 liquid. The real decision isn't which door, it's the split. And that's exactly the kind of ratio a licensed advisor earns their fee finding for your actual life. So, The next dollar call. On patient maths, it wasn't close. The same salary becomes about 2.5 times as much in super. But be straight about why a genuine tax head start, stacked on a market return advantage you only earn by taking real risk. Powerful, not free, and locked till 60. So where does your next dollar do its best work? The more of it you can genuinely afford not to touch till 60, the more the maths favours super. The most powerful tax structure most Australians underuse. The more you might need it, or need to sleep at night, the more it favours the mortgage and the certainty it buys. The question was never which pile is bigger at 60. It's how much of your money can genuinely afford to be 60 before you are. There's a free calculator in the description. Pop in your bracket, your age, and your split, and it runs the illustrative maths for you. A learning tool, not advice, and it doesn't know your circumstances. And if you want Aussie money decisions with the actual maths instead of vibes, subscribe. There's a whole series working through them, one honest number at a time. I'll see you in the next one.